What's up, everybody? Welcome, welcome. Thank you for being on time. I'm super excited for tonight's call. We have an amazing guest joining us here tonight. But before we get to that, yes, one of my favorite song, best movie, um, Top Gun. Amazing. If you haven't seen it, I don't know where you've been. But before we get to tonight's guest, I will kind of just do a little introduction of this call as I always do. And as we wait for people to kind of hop in and introduce myself, where this call came from, what's the point of having these calls every single week. So most of you guys have heard the story of me moving to Peru, living there, thinking, all right, I'm financially free, this is all I'm going to do, I'm just going to hang out in the mountains and live the rest of my life out that way. So there was a point while I was living in Peru during COVID that I came back to the States to pack up all my stuff because I was actually going to move down there indefinitely. And that was when I ended up at a Publix. And, a lot of you guys have heard this, but it's worth hearing again because it's always a great reminder. I had a cashier who was probably 80 to 85 years old, and she had two wrist guards on. She couldn't even bag my groceries, so I had to do it. And it saddened me and angered me kind of at the same time, because in my culture and Asian cultures, like, we really honor our elders. My mom, my would never go and work at a Publix at the age that she's at now. So she just turned 70 this year, but we take care of her. She's retired. She gets to, just travel and see me, see my sister, and don't really have to worry about money. And we've gotten to a point in our lives that we could do that, and we should, right? So it kind of angered me. We're in the wealthiest country in the world, and everybody's been conditioned to invest for retirement a certain way, and that way has not really delivered the promise that was supposed to be. So you're supposed to be able to work your prime time of your life, work 40 years, put money in the retirement account, 401k, IRA, whatever it is. And when you retire, you're supposed to get this giant nest egg and be able to live out the rest of your life that way. But that isn't so, right? There's statistics that show that less than 12% of the people even retire with more than $500,000. So they play this game, and by the time they retire, most people hear that, hey, now is not a good time. Or they wonder why they thought they had $1 million and they're really only exiting with a fraction of that, right? Because of all the fees and all the things that that they take from you. And Tony Robbins, in one of his books, wrote that every percentage of fees that you collect in your retirement account equates to about 20% of your profits. Okay. And recently, one of my friends, he was like, I don't even want to look at my retirement account anymore. It's just kind of depressing. I'm like, why is that? Oh, because we lost like 40% this year. But it's okay because we made 70 the past 5 years. I'm like, if you really look at the math, okay, if you take $100 and you increase that by 70%, that's $170. From $170, if you lose 40%, you're basically back at square one, right? But on paper, it looks like you made 30% because that's how they do the math. And when you have put enough money in there and they've matched it enough times, you're not even sure how much money you've put into your retirement account. Right? So this plan does not work. This whole going to school, getting good grades, getting a good job, all of that just doesn't work. So for me, I learned very early on. I've been doing real estate for about 20 years now, 19 years, right? And when I say I started was when I picked up that purple Bible, the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, and decided that this is the path that I'm going to take. I was completely bought in. I had $10,000. I joined the personal coaching program that he offered at the time, and we created, myself and the coach, we created a exit the rat race strategy, and it was going to be through real estate. I play the cash flow game all the time. If you haven't played that game, play that game. If you got kids, play that game with your kids. It's a great game. It's not really about winning or losing, but it's really about looking at how you play the game and what did you learn from it. Because you can start as a janitor or you can start as a doctor, but either way, you can exit the rat race. It's pretty fair game across the board. Sometimes it's actually tougher as a doctor to exit the rat race because you have so many more liabilities on your sheet, on your financial statement. So real estate has been the way that I exited the rat race. And when I was 23 years old, I bought my first triplex, and that triplex paid for itself, paid for my car, paid for my cell phone, and I'm like, that's it. I'm free. But at the end of the day, a couple $1,000s is only a couple $1,000. Can't really do much with it. Right? So I thought I was the man. I just came out of college. I'm financially free. I leveraged that house. I actually gained a lot of appreciation in that house. They built a Whole Foods like down the street like a year later, and my property went from 220,000 to 660 in like 3 years. And I kind of got lucky because I wasn't aware of the 2007 2008 pandemic that was happening, right? That not the pandemic, the real estate crisis that was happening. And I just happened to have bought this one property at a really good price. I leveraged it, opened up 2 restaurants, and restaurants, it's the death of you. I lost my house, I lost the restaurant, I lost my car, lost everything, moved down to Florida with basically nothing and had to start over. And within 6 years, I was able to go from negative $450,000 to building multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio, having $20,000 a month in income. And I didn't use any of my money because I didn't have any. I went to a seminar, and they taught me how to do partnerships. And so I went and started putting on little real estate seminars in Florida, little meetups. And one person in the room was like, yeah, I'll invest with you. You seem like you know what you're doing. Because I did. I understood so much about real estate. And I actually took for granted that people really know nothing. So the purpose of this call is to take all the knowledge that I've gained throughout the years and share it. I'm also in masterminds. I've taken a whole bunch of courses. So I got a lot of knowledge in here that I feel like it's a duty to share. When I ran into that lady and then started seeing all the old ladies, all the elderly in Walmart, Whole Foods, everywhere, I'm like, all right, it's a duty. If I can make an impact in one person's life moving forward, I've accomplished my mission here. So I started this call, and it started with 3 people, and it's, at times we've had over 100 people. But there's so many of these calls going on right now. So I'm sure it's a pain in the ass for everybody to figure out which calls to jump on. So I'm glad and I'm super grateful that all of you guys decided today to come on to this call and share with us your time and be here to witness, right? We have an amazing guest today. So, we've been talking back and forth for a while on Instagram and stuff, and she's got, an impressive amount of followers, and I watch her videos every day. So for those of you guys that follow me on Instagram, you see my videos every day. I see her videos every day, and it's an inspiration to, find somebody that's like, I want to say like a peer, that is at the same level, and that we can, that I can feel inspired by all the time. So I'm really grateful that you're here, and I'll just kind of share with you guys just a little bit of her accomplishments, if you will. So ZASHA's here. She's from Hawaii, right? That's how you pronounce it now. Hawaii. Um, but she was, she had a W-2 job. She's a mom, and she went to through real estate have built over 4.6 million dollars in a single family portfolio. She has done over $1 million, profited over $1 million in fix and flips, which is extremely impressive. I feel like in Hawaii, it's like it's really hard to do, but maybe that's my own limiting beliefs. And now she's she's in multifamily and she's in commercial, and she's a general partner in 100 10 unit deal, $15.9 million, a 134 unit and a 263 unit. She's also done RV RV parks, and she's got an office building in Montana, or I mean in Kansas City. So all these things I can say about her and how inspiring she is all day, but I want to bring her on now just so we honor her time for being here. And I'm going to pin her to the front so everyone gets to see her. And remember, what we want to do on these calls to get known is, you can snap a picture of her, you can tag her, follow her so she can follow you back, and spotlight. I did it.
Aloha, everybody.
Hey, hold on one second.
Aloha.
How do
It's
I
still
spot
early afternoon
myself?
here, so I know it's evening for you guys. So thanks for being on the call today. Alex asked me to be on, and I said, of course, because I love to inspire people. And especially, being on these calls ever since COVID, I think like Zoom is now the new thing, like jumping from Zoom call to Zoom call, which I don't know if it's a good or bad thing because now we just don't give ourselves any breathing room in between. But thank you guys for having me on. Like he mentioned a little bit about myself. I also came, like Alex, from very humble beginnings. I grew up in affordable housing. I was raised by a single mom and helped take care of my brother and my sister in Maui in Hawaii, which is a very expensive place to live. I moved probably every single year. I've been to every single school on this island because my mom was hopping from house to what she can afford. And oftentimes, they discounted rent when they're trying to sell a home. And so she ended up moving to that, like it was a short lease. So that's my early introduction into real estate. However, I wasn't on the buying or selling side. I was on the living in trying to get discounted rent side. But it was a struggle growing up. I didn't really have any sort of financial background, but because we had to be so frugal with the income that my mom had, she made me even, I don't know if you guys remember this, a few of you guys might, but balancing a checkbook because my mom was like, I don't have any money. I'm like, oh no, but we want to go here and there. She made us balance the checkbook so we knew zeros, negatives, like how much money we really didn't have. And so from that, just having that financial background or just having that experience with income and expenses, I've always been frugal my entire life. Even now that I do have a portfolio and experience and, doing these $1 million deals, I still am very much aware that we need to plan for the future. It might not always be. And especially right now with the market shifting and these, bigger multifamily deals doing capital calls and a bunch of other people not really wanting to invest in more equity, leaning more towards debt. That's what we're seeing right now. But regardless, I think that real estate is always a good asset to invest in. And even being in an expensive market, I think for some people, they see it as, a difficulty or not an advantage. But for me, I see it as an advantage because there's so much more equity if you find a really good deal. And so that's how I was able to build my portfolio. I ended up, one of my high school teachers ended up just telling me like, hey, ZASHA, you have a lot of potential, even though you have all these hardships, you need to go to college. So I went to Cal State Long Beach, graduated with a bachelor's in civil engineering. I was the first out of my family to get a degree and was able to move home. And from there, I was working the 60 to 70-hour weeks just to be in charge of these like huge projects that, building underground utilities and being in charge of project managing projects that were, you know, shopping centers, hotel renovations, and subdivisions all across Hawaii. And for me, that was like, oh, I made it, right? Like I'm playing this big role. I'm project managing these huge projects and I'm making a living for me and my family, but I was never there. And even my husband, you know, for a while, he's an entrepreneur. He owns his own plumbing construction business, and he has 10 employees and he was still able to spend more time with the kids than I was. And I was working for someone else because I was stuck to their schedule. And so I think the realization came when my husband had brought up to me, like, hey, you're always tired. You're not spending time with us. You know, you started working on the weekends now and we never see you. Like, he doesn't mind taking over the responsibility. But me being a mom, that even made me feel worse because my mom was always working and she was never there. And so essentially, even though I was in the exact opposite position of her, where I could afford, you know, to live in an expensive area, I was never really present. And so I started researching online, like how to quit my job and get rich, and you know, just the typical things everybody does while they're at their job. Well, don't tell my boss, but
Who's searched that before? Put like a thumb or a fire emoji that you've searched online, how to get rich or something like that on YouTube. How do I make money?
right? How do I
I know
quit
I
my
definitely
job?
did it.
Like, what do I do to? And I know there's a lot of like MLM stuff and all that kind of stuff, but I wanted like a really concrete way. And so I've seen all these people owning all these rentals. And for me living on Maui, where the median home price is like $1.2 million now, it was hard enough for us to just get our own, qualify for our own home. So I was like, these people got to be rich. They have to come from money. But the more that I dug, the more I went on bigger pockets and the more I surrounded myself by people that were doing it, like Alex, I was like, or Ryan Pineda and all these, I was like, oh, they didn't come from money. So how are they doing it? And so that's the power of leveraging, like he had mentioned, other people's money. My first private lender on my third deal, he was another investor and it was in 2020. And he didn't want to, he was like, I'm not buying any deals right now. Like there's no way, there's all this craziness going on. And so when I was talking to him, I was like, oh, how do you buy the next deal? He's like, oh, I leverage other people's money, which is private lending or hard money. And so he was like, but I'm thinking about lending because I'm not going to be buying deals, you know, for a while. And I was like, well, I could use your money. You know, I don't qualify. My DTI is too high. So from there, I just, you know, skyrocketed with partnerships and doing a bunch of flips, either connecting by being able to qualify for the capital or being able to raise the capital to bring that into the deal and other people bring me deals. So I've always been the one. I've loved making connections and networking. And I think a lot of people, you know, you have to play to your strengths. And one of my strengths is connecting with people and just being real, because honestly, it is a little hard to find people that are genuine and not trying to, like, you know, for lack of better words, like fake it till they make it type of deal. And so after going to my first few multifamily conferences, I found out that I had raised way more money than like actual syndicators before. So I've raised like $5 million in private money just for my own fix and flips. And so I was looking for other ways to help these investors, uh, you know, capitalize on that depreciation, right? Without partnering on these smaller multifamily deals. Because I figured, well, you know, any kind of partnership is almost like a marriage, right? It's like once you get into something, you have to be committed. And for me, being committed on a flip, you know, 8 to 12 months, then you can really see how you guys work together. But
Mhm.
on rental properties, if it's like a single family, sometimes there's just, you know, not enough meat on the bone as well.
Yeah.
And I got in touch with so one of the guys who is going to lend on my deals, he was telling me he was into syndications, and I was like, okay, I need to get on that boat because I couldn't in 2021, I couldn't find any rentals that made sense. Who here in 2021 found like single family or small multifamily that really did cash flow?
No, I
Anybody?
mean it was a crazy market. Everything was super expensive. So
Right.
hold on, wait, real quick. So when did you start? What was your first like real estate transaction? And because it seems like what was that, like 3 years ago? So
Yeah, so
where was the
2019,
beginning?
in July 2019, I had bought my first flip. I was like, okay, I set my goals of replacing the income at my job. So I was making $5,000 a month. So I
Uh-huh.
was like, okay, if I can just replace this, how can I do that? And so when I was researching about rental properties, and they're like, okay, the average is $200 a
200.
month in cash flow. I was like, what the heck? I was like, it's gonna take me forever to quit my job. And so I found about flipping. And then as soon as I started attending meetups and seeing it with my own eyes, like people locally were doing it, I was like, okay, I'm comfortable here because I know this market. And so I seen a foreclosure. It was listed at 300,000, and things around the area that we're selling, and it's a condo. So I thought, okay, I can take like a little bit of risk with a condo, right? If it's a full blown house that's a fixer upper, I have to worry about the roof. I have to worry about all the structural components, the foundation. But with a condo, it's like basically cosmetic, right? You rip everything out, you update it, put it back in. So other condos in that area were selling for around 475, 480. And I was like, hey, can't cost 180,000 to like fix up this condo, maybe like 50,000. Anyway, I ended up fixing it up for 30. We sold it at 475 or 480. And so I netted 103,000 in 45 days, 30 days to renovate, 15 days to sell to a cash buyer. And I still didn't want to quit my job, which is crazy, right? Like and this is where mentorships come into play, right? So my husband was like, dude, just quit your job. Like you just made a hundred thousand in one deal. All you gotta do is like one deal at a time, like one deal a year, and you're already replacing your income plus getting all this time back. I was like, oh, but what if I just got lucky? I don't know if I could do this again, or what about our health insurance? And so after I joined a mentorship, my coach was like, well, how much is health insurance a month? I was like, well, we get premiums. So it's like, $1,800. He was like, you just made $103,000. Like you're worried about $1,800 a month. Like you just got to do one deal a year and you're buying back all this time. So a lot of times I think we go through life and we talk ourselves out of like great opportunities, just one, because we might be scared, but two, a lot of times when things align, like when we set goals and we take action and it actually happens, it's kind of magical in a sense. Like you're like, okay, it's happening. This is real. So
Yeah.
being around other, entrepreneurs or big visionaries definitely helped me to move on from that deal and keep doing it, right? And not every deal was $100,000 deal. My biggest deal, honestly, was like 230,000, and that's when I was on my own. I profited that. So again, this is a different time though from the 2019, 2021 market. I
Yeah.
feel like those were good times to flip. Right now, I do have 3 projects in Vegas, and we're having a pivot on a couple of them. So I highly recommend like getting educated. Like everybody's inspired by like the first deals or the people that started within the past few years. But there's a lot of hardships in the market right now. So that's just something to be aware of as
Tell
well.
me a little bit about your Vegas flips or what you're doing in Vegas.
So I'm focusing right now more so on the luxury space because I
Uh-huh.
do have my mentor and other partners of mine are out there and successfully uh, making money and profiting on these luxury flips, because that doesn't really affect, like interest rates don't affect people that are buying cash and they're paying millions of dollars. They
Yeah.
just want the home. So I think you got to find out navigate your network for one, but two, also pick a strategy and kind of stick to it, but also have multiple exit strategies. So one, we're turning into midterm rental. We already ran numbers. It works great for that as well. And another option is also to look at, like corporate housing. So I'm always open to different strategies and running things accordingly, because I think you always have to be prepared. Even the flips that I bought here, I was like, okay, if I buy this flip and it doesn't sell, what am I going to do? Do I need to move into it? Can I rent it out? How would the numbers look for that? And I think if you're in an appreciating market, you could always hold on. You might like negative cash flow for a little bit, but then you could always sell later on as well once the equity builds up.
Yeah. So, I mean, you did all this super quick, So, can you? I've seen your videos where you were talking about your net worth from year to year. So, I want everyone here to kind of get a sense of I don't know how fast it could be done, because I know there are people on this call that also do flips. You know, I've done flips too. I'm actually still doing some builds and flips over in North Carolina right now. But what just kind of walk us through 2019, $5,000 a month job. You made your first deal. You're now, I don't know, a couple $100,000 in liquid assets. So kind of walk us through that, because some people think like, well, I can't do real estate. I'm too old. I'm six. Someone today was like, I'm 64 years old. I don't think I can do real estate anymore. I'm too old. I'm like, what? And so just kind of walk us through it, because I also did it really quick, and but I don't really know how to explain the speed in which it's done. It's like you said, it's kind of like magic. It was like, whoa, this, this deal made this money and this deal made this, and then refinance. I'm like, okay. So I would love to just kind of hear your story, because I see it on Instagram. So now I want to hear it live.
Yeah. So 2019 is when I bought my first flip. And then right after that, I bought my first rental.
Hmm.
And with that, I kept it cash for a little bit. And then I ended up doing a burr strategy. So I found out about that strategy where you could refinance your money out. You didn't have to leave it in, but you have to, depending on the type of loan, if you're using a DSCR loan or a conventional loan, you might have to personally qualify. So I used personal loans up until probably about last year. And
So
so
what are
those
the interest rates on the personal loans that you got?
3.25%, I believe.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So like a personal loan from like a bank.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. All right. So how do people qualify for that?
So typically you need to have a income from employment income. I self what is it called? Self-employment income is harder to
Yep.
qualify. There's a lot more hoops to jump to, but that's also how I qualified lately. Oh yeah, you don't qualify anymore. But yeah, you have to have a good credit score, and then you have to have income qualifications. Then if it's an investment property, sometimes they only lend up to like 60 to 70% ARV. But that's also where I learned to leverage different types of loans. So I talked to the tellers at the bank and I was like, hey, like all my money's stuck in this property. How do I get it out? Like, oh, you could do a cash out refinance or you could do a HELOC. I was like, what are those things? Like, I know what a mortgage is, but I don't even know what those other loan products are. Like, what are the risks and those kind of things. So I leverage HELOCs all the time now. And those are pretty much lines of credit that you get on the equity instead of when you do a mortgage or cash out refinance. You basically pull all that money out and then you pay interest on it over the length of the loan. So
Hmm.
with HELOCs, you can get a set rate HELOC. And for Hawaii, so it's depending on state to state, right? There's some states where they won't give lines of credit on investment properties, but in my state, they do. So check with your local offices. But they oftentimes, like in January, I just pulled out 600,000 in home equity line of credits from my properties, and that was at 3.75% for 5 years locked in. And then it goes to the variable rate, which is now, I believe, like 6 or 7%. So
Yeah.
just be something to be mindful because I couldn't refinance my money out, or the refinance rates were at like 8%. The local banks here, I could still leverage lines of credit, but you have to be mindful that there's like timelines to them as well. So like run your numbers and do, what you feel is the best for your journey moving forward, but that's where your goals come into play as well. I knew that that 600,000 would turn into $10 million down the road because I now use that to buy a 45-acre RV park, which I'm 45% equity owner and I JV'd on, and a 15-unit office building that I just closed on last month. So it's okay to leverage debt if you're investing in income producing assets that will offset that expense. So it's just
Yeah.
before income and expenses.
So for everyone that's on the call, if there are there's terminology that she's using that you don't understand, make sure you do ask it, because sometimes for us, like, it's hard for us to go all the way back to when we knew nothing about real estate. Because she did share some parts where she just like, I don't even know what's going on. Right. And she created massive success for herself, not knowing what's going on. So for everybody else that's here, you guys have been on a bunch of different calls, and we really got to look at like, what's the stories that we're telling ourselves that we're not creating success for ourselves. Right. And so $5,000 a month turned into one flip, hundred something thousand. Then you bought a rental, and then
And then
you
I bought more. Then I bought more smaller multifamily rentals because that now 2020, the world's shutting down. I ended
yeah.
up quitting my job January 31st of 2020, thinking, "Woo, the world is mine. I'm gonna take on more flips and do all these things," and then everything shut down.
So that's
So
a year and a half in, right? From $5,000 a month. I mean, there's probably people here that are stuck on $5,000 a month jobs, or probably some people here have 10,000, 12,000, 15,000 a month jobs that don't feel like they can do real estate. So from 5,000 a month, 2018, a year and a half later, she quits her job because she now has the confidence in herself, and her perspective and her mindset's changed. And so, all right, 2020 now. Now you're gonna take over the world. The world shuts down, and then what do you do?
I actually had two deals already under contract that I was gonna wholesale or flip.
Mm-hmm.
And those didn't obviously pan out. So I ended up keeping one, which was a 4-unit property, which I was not ready for. The only renovation I ever did was a flip, was a condo. So now I had this massive $200,000 rehab that I just had to jump full force into. And I made it happen over COVID. And that's my best performing asset to this date. It brings in $8,000 a month in rental income, and my mortgage is set at like 3.25. So my mortgage is like 2,100 a month for that property. And then with all
Wow.
expenses and whatever, it probably cash flows a little less than 3,000 a month. And I
I mean,
bought it for 312,000
okay. So
with
what
200.
would you recommend kind of people doing? Because I think there is a lot of people are like, I need to get into syndications. I need to be a part of these big deals. But, these big deals don't really pan out to the types of money that you're talking about as quick as you're doing it, nor does the cash flow sometimes cash flow like that. Right. So, I mean, for you to get $3,000 a month income, you're going to have to invest a very large amount of money to get that passively. So technically, you still got to operate it. You're the manager of it, right? Because it's 4 units. Um, but 3,000 a month, that's great. That's like almost it's more than halfway, like or more than it's like 60% of what she was making at her work.
Yeah.
So you got this property, and where's your net worth at this point?
Well, it's probably about, I would say, probably about maybe like 300. I'm trying to think of all my expenses too I had at that time because we just bought our house as well. Because true net worth, right, is your
Not
assets minus your liabilities. So all the
Mhm.
expenses you have at that moment in time, which I think during COVID, I think everybody was a little skittish too. So it's probably around 3 or 400,000. And then I ended up buying my next property, which was driving for dollars. So I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's so hard to find deals. And if you're a single family investor or like a smaller multi-family investor, you can literally just drive around neighborhoods and go and see the neighborhoods that are overgrown, broken down cars, and go knock on the door. Everybody's like, how do I get in touch with the owner or whatever? So if it looks like somebody's living there, then go knock on the door. Like I think for me, it was just like, just take action, like do something, right? And I wasn't ever
Uh-huh.
scared to do that because I was so motivated. I think when you find your why, right? Like you said, your mom is your big why, and seeing these old elderly people. For me, my big why was I want to spend more time with my family. I'm going to do whatever it takes to do that. So if it's knocking on strangers' doors and getting cussed at or whatever the case may be, but seeing the opportunity, I think a lot of people see opportunity, but they don't take action on it. So I
Uh-huh.
drove past this house, broken down cars in the front, go knock on the door, didn't answer, leave my card, leave a letter, go back a few weeks later. And this guy had inherited this house, just let it go to shit, for lack of better words. And he owned it outright. He had a bunch of tax liens against it. I think it was like 50 grand or whatever. And so he wanted to move, but because COVID happened and he just he talked to a realtor, and the realtor was like, oh, you got to clean all this up if you want to list it, get the highest price. He didn't want to do that. So I think I get creative with some with some owners and let them know, hey, you can leave all your stuff, I'll pay you this much, and then you could just go. And for
How
some
did you
people,
get this strategy? I mean, how do you even know to go and do that though, and offer different creative ways to get this deal?
I think with living in an expensive market, I think you just are open to more different types of strategies, I guess, for lack of better words, because people can't afford like all cash offers. And it was Google, honestly, Google and Bigger Pockets, just learning about the bird strategy and doing all this free stuff. And then, yeah, staying hungry and really setting my goal. And I was like, dude, the world shut down. I need to make this happen. Like, there's no going
So
back to my
wait, hold
job.
on one sec. So for anyone that doesn't know, because you mentioned the burst strategy twice, the burst strategy is when you buy something, then you renovate it, then you rent it out, and then you go and refinance it. Okay, so you get your money out and then you do it again and again. So the burr method is a very popular method. You can that's one strategy. So it's one piece of the puzzle. Oftentimes you'll find real estate deals, you'll have to put a bunch of different strategies together and make it work. So it's about just kind of like learning, right? So in today's time, I think we are in a great we're in a time where learning is going to be very crucial. What you learn today is going to determine how much real estate you do in the future. Like this is one of those times I think that we can drastically change our destiny, through real estate. So yeah.
Amen. I agree. And also because the BRRRR strategy, like the refinancing out all your money thing, is getting harder because rates are higher. Now we're
Mhm.
getting creative with deals. We're doing seller finance, owner financing. So that's when somebody like this guy owns the property outright. He doesn't have a mortgage on it. And then he essentially becomes the bank. So I can take a mortgage out with him. He can record a lien against the property and I pay him a monthly payment instead of the bank. And then I don't have to use my income or my credit score to qualify. It just depends on the relationship that I have with the owner. And a few owners I've done that. I've done novation strategy where I partner with the seller if their home is in distress and they keep the property under their name. I bring in the money, private funds to fix it up, and then we sell it and I make a profit and they make a profit. So I think, you know, being able to build rapport like anybody else, right? Especially other investors, build a connection, make sure it's the right situation for that seller. You don't want to try to talk them into it, but say, hey, here's another option that we could do. And I've learned, I didn't know what a novation was or have any of the paperwork. I just went to the title company and I said, look,
I
I
love
want
it.
to I want to fix up this house. The seller is gonna, wants to partner up with me. What do I do? So don't be scared to ask questions. Like along the way, I feel like I was very open about, like, even when I met you, Alex, I was like, oh, I'm just starting off in multifamily, like even having that sense of like what is it called? Like framing things to where people will be like, oh, okay, she's just starting off. That's why she's asking these simple questions.
I
But
mean, next thing I know, she's got like, $40 million under, asset under management. So
yeah. So I think
what?
the underlying premise with me, especially like me, like I connect with a lot of people or they resonate with me because all I did all along was I just asked questions. I even had Google, how do I get rich? Or how do I buy stuff when I don't
Now you got
qualify?
Chat GPT.
Yeah. Oh yeah, now we have Chat GTP. I asked the teller at the bank, like, how do I get money out of this house? Because we just put all our savings into it. And so she told me about the other things and jumping on calls like this, like, Alex, what do I do next steps? I don't know how to do this. So I think if you just ask questions, but then also bring value, like for me being on this call and then Alex, vice versa, it's just a fluid kind of relationship and people want to help other people that are trying to help themselves. Like I love helping people, talking to them, going to events. And for me, it's just even the syndications. I was like, oh my God, I'm making all this money, which is a good problem to have, fixing and flipping. How do I offset that? I can't find any rental deals and I'm not gonna, pay to have a rental. And so syndications came about from another guy who was going to lend to me. And he's like, oh yeah, we're just starting and there's this group and where you can get like a co-GP position in deals. I was like, what the heck is that? I didn't even know, like, usually you come in as a limited partner unless you're a syndicator and you're finding the deals, raising the capital, all of that. So I was able to come in at a higher position because of this one connection to this one guy. So you never know where, those relationships may lead. But obviously they were trying to raise a bunch of money and I had some money to invest into the deal. And so it was a win-win for both of us. And now we're starting a $50 million fund this year, debt and equity. So I don't know, it just snowballs. And like how you mentioned, I don't even know how to describe it. And it's not really luck. Well, luck is when, what do they say? Something meets preparation, work meets
When
preparation.
opportunity
Meets preparation.
Yeah, work.
Right. And I'm not the most
She's like, just
I'm not the most
preparation.
articulate person either, guys. Like, I'm not dumb, but I am not articulate. I just am true to who I am. I'm genuine. And I think that's why a lot of people want to help me on my journey, and then vice versa. I can help them. Now I grew this huge following of people, a good community. So maybe I can give back by shouting them out or doing a post or I don't know, some marketing thing for them. Yeah, it's getting uncomfortable.
I always say if you want shit to fall on your lap, you got to put yourself somewhere where shit can fall on your lap, right? So you got to be in the right rooms. You got to asking the right questions. I think what she was saying is extremely important. And I do think that with where we're going with ChatGPT, people are like afraid of this. I'm like, yo, ChatGPT is literally showing you what you need to do. You need to ask it the right questions. It's not just about like, simple little things of AI taking over, but ask it the right questions. Any question that she had for the teller, for anybody else, now she can ask ChatGPT. ChatGPT can actually write you some legal documents that you can actually submit. Like you can copy codes, like city codes, city ordinances, stick it in there and be like, write me a proposal to the city about why I should be able to build this, citing these codes. Like my CPA actually recently just showed me that he did that and he got it approved. It didn't come from an attorney. He signed his own name on it and the city approved it, because of ChatGPT. And there's so many things happening. I think ChatGPT is something that, we got to find an expert to come onto these calls and talk about it because, there's so much going on. There's a website called Futurepedia. Okay, there's all sorts of different AI on Futurepedia. Play around with it. They do all sorts of things, so asking the right questions. Back to that. I tangent off a little bit.
Well, I agree because even in Chat GTP, when I have a hard time explaining things like seller financing, novations, sub two, getting creative, any kind of creative financing, because it is hard to explain exactly what it is. I type it in there or my email is like, there's so many things you can automate. And if you need clarity on, it can answer. So I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, use it. These are tools that we get to use to be able to further push ourselves. Yes, Jasmine's here. Hey, Jasmine, welcome. It takes ZASHA being here for you to come visit me again. So for everybody that's here, write down your questions too. Like ZASHA's here and you want to ask her, take the opportunity to ask her these questions and also follow her on Instagram. She's actually pretty responsive on Instagram, kind of not really like me, but she's way more responsive.
Yeah.
So
but I mean my background, like you mentioned before, I grew up in affordable housing. I was an engineer prior to this, so for those working their 9 to 5, I feel your pain. I have long-term rentals, single family, small multi. I have short-term rentals as well. I invest out of state. I'm now in syndications. I have an RV park that I JV'd on, an office building, starting a
$50 million fund.
So many different, I'm all over the place. I like to be diversified in things. I lend as well, when not openly to everybody, just people that are going to give me either equity in the deal or a very high amount in interest. So there's that too. But there's the more people you meet, the more opportunities I feel will come about that you can definitely take advantage of. So was the RV park existing or did you? Yeah, so it's an abandoned site. So we got an SBA loan for the RV park. And it's in Branson, Missouri. It is currently 45 pad site. We're gonna make 48. We're also gonna put 2 short-term cabins on it. And then we're also gonna put there's already a existing pool that we're digging out, and 10 glamping tents and a rental store and a camp store. So it's like a mini business, right?
So
It's like a
many
mini
different ways to make money
community.
on that
Yeah.
property. That's so cool.
It's more
So
of a business than like a real estate, investment hands off. So I like to
Mhm.
do both. So I like to be active and passive. And I think for everybody on this call too, like you have to think about where you want to start or where you're going. And also I have really good partners. Like I've partnered with probably about maybe 8 or 9 people, but not in the syndication route, but like JV, that's when you just partner on a deal. It's just equity splits on it, not debt or just debt and not, I don't know how to explain it. But are you partnering with Heather on this deal? Yes, yes, yes. Heather Muir. So her and her husband are out there, they're boots on the ground. So I usually partner with people that are in that area. They're the boots on the ground. I either qualify for the capital, I raise the capital, or bring the gap funding or some sort of, so they don't have to worry about the money at all. And then they just focus on the deal, the project management, putting together the teams, the renovations. And then I focus on helping get it through the exit strategy, whether that be a refinance or a sell.
yeah, that's awesome. So we'll take like another 5 minutes here and then we'll answer some questions. I'm still trying to follow this journey
Oh,
because 2020, $300,000 net worth, and then so, I know where you're at now because you've posted it. Okay, let's kind of 5 minutes fast forwarding from 2020. Then what happens?
okay. So now everything opens back up, right? In 2021, boom, I just start doing deals either creatively flipping or buying single family rentals here because now, the market went down a little bit. There's less competition. So I just started buying like everything that was a deal. I started to buy locally here and partner with people on flips. And then from there in 2022, so my net worth in 2021 was $1 million, just around there, because my friend
You did
Brian
it.
Danilla asked me, like, are you a millionaire yet? I was like, I don't know. What does that even mean? Like, I had no, like, my desire is not to be rich, right? Is
Yeah.
to build wealth for my family. So once I did, because prior to investing in syndications, I never had to
You
really
never
do
had to do
a
that. Same.
personal income statement or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
Um, what is it called? Personal
It's
statement?
that well, yeah, it's a financial statement, but there's
Yeah,
also the real estate holding.
personal financial statement. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's the
So I never had
SREO.
to do that before. And then once I did, I was like, oh, I am. So, but for me, it was just my money is always moving. So it's
Mhm.
not like you see it's not, I thought a millionaire meant you had to have $1 million in the bank, but it has to do with your assets and your liabilities. So that was the educational part for me. But after I did that, I was like, okay, that doesn't, I mean, it means a little bit, but then for me, the cash flow meant more and having more time meant more. And essentially, when you're flipping, you're working yourself into another job because now you got to find the next deal. Now you got to coordinate the contractors. Now you got to find partners. And then so that was 2021. So 2022 came. That was last year, right? Yeah. Last year came and I got taxed a lot in 2021. So I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I got to focus on, even though I had bought a bunch of rentals, I didn't buy enough. And so in 2022, I kept looking, I couldn't find deals. And that's when I met Chris and he was like, hey, come in, you get the depreciation. So this is the last year to get 100% bonus depreciation. Before I did, I was like, I don't even know what that means, but there must be something good because it's going down after that. So I'm just going to invest in that. So I ended up investing in 4 different deals as a co-GP, and at the same time, still fixing and flipping. And so I think in 2021, I had made about 800,000. And then last year, well, because the market went down, I made around 900 flipping. That's gross income. So like different than net.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah. So at this point, what is this?
When
2023?
when did you learn that what it meant to be a real estate professional?
I think in 2021, because I was trying to find out ways we had to like get our income down,
Yeah.
right? So I
Uh-huh.
was like, oh, my accountant or my CPA told me that if I'm doing it full time, then and spending so many hours, then that is something that we could do. Then we started paying our kids in 2021 as well. What else did we do? Investing into doing a solo 401k. So I invested like 60 grand into there. I don't know. We're just like trying to throw as much money into all these tax savings instruments as we could. And so that's when I found out, like when I started raising for syndications, that people invest their retirements. Because I was like,
That's
should I
all you
just put
gotta do.
60 grand into a retirement account? Like, how do I get that back? They're like, invest in other people's deals. You can't invest in your own. I was like, damn it. I was like, okay. Well, and now I understand. Like, that's why it's integral too for you to make relationships with other investors, because it's not really competition, it's collaboration, because they can't use some of their money to invest, or they want to diversify to other people's deals too. If it's a really great deal, why not?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
um, yeah. And then
So
today, about $4.6 billion net worth. I just had to do another PFS, the PFS. So, I did not know you couldn't invest in your own with self-directed. Yeah, so there's like some stipulations with that. I mean, I would talk to a retirement specialist specifically about that. I'm by no means um
so
really
you can't
expert
invest in a deal that, like, basically if you're listed,
that
usually
you're
there's
actively.
yeah, usually there's 2 or 3 people that are listed as the managing partners of a syndication. There are GPs and stuff like that, but you just cannot be like managing the deal and then having your money in there. All right, so that's one thing you have to be aware of. And investing passively is great. That's really where we all want to end up, right? You just want to use your money to make more money, use your net worth to make more money, and not really have to do all the work, because it becomes hard work. So now, what's next? You got this $50 million fund that you're gonna start.
Yeah, so we're raising money to invest in other syndicators deals. So that's how we're going to bring value to them, because like you mentioned, I don't want to be the one calling brokers. Before I used to call sellers, be at their house. It's the same difference, right? You're creating these relationships, but at the end of it, you still got to analyze, underwrite the deals. You got to go find the deals, which is the hardest part, especially in this economy. But I think with anything in life too, if you have like you focus on the one thing especially that you're good at, then you can excel way faster than trying to spread yourself thin, like trying to find the deal, trying to raise money. And I mean, to each their own, right? That might be something that you do, but for me, I just want to focus on the capital, because I do live in an expensive area. So there's a lot of people with money here. If they're just educated and they're looking for things. I just went to a women's conference last week with capital venturists and angel investors. I just found out what an angel investor was. But
You're so funny.
I know, but it's the truth. And I mean, and I'm not scared to say that. Like, I'm not ashamed that I don't know what I don't know.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Um, but it's interesting that, like, just in last year, 4 deals, and then now starting a fund, and it's just through these relationships and being honest and open, but also having successful projects prior to that, and having a great team. Now we have a great underwriter that is very cautious as well, and he has his own connections. He was in charge of like $1 billion company, the financial aspects of it, so I definitely trust. But I think along the way in my journey, I've found the right people and trusted in their judgment and partnered with them, right? I don't, it's like they say, right? Like 50% of a deal is better than 100% of no deal. So if it takes me giving up some equity or them too, I think I'm just aligned with people on my morals, integrity, on my values. And that has been important in connecting and growing with other people.
Hmm. Yeah, and I say that all the time. I'm like, when you gotta, it's about finding your team, finding your partners, and who you jive with, who you feel the good vibes with. It's not just about the first opportunity you get, just jump into it. I've seen so many people just kind of jump into opportunities and then really regretting it later. It's actually way worse off to have this split. Like, I know there's people that have really bad partnerships right now, and they got to deal with investors' money, right? With investors' money, and they won't even talk to each other. And it's like, dude, you guys are GPs on a deal. You guys raised money together on a deal, and then now you guys won't talk to each other. Like the energy, I feel like the energy of that deal is gonna hurt, everybody. So, really feel who you kind of align with, like you said, like values, integrity, like mindset. Because if you're somebody that's willing to give up equity, be a part of something, and somebody else is not, and they got the mentality of I need more, like that's not someone that you want to gel with, right? Like there are people that are about teams and about partnerships, and then there are people that say no, don't have any partnerships. Partners are going to burn you, right? So right there, just the alignment is off, and you don't want to jump into something that is going to create conflict later on. So yeah, that's a really good point that you shared right there. All right, so we're gonna take about 10 minutes here. Ask your questions, guys. This is a good opportunity. I think, she's really relatable, super real about everything she shares. So if you have questions about, what's next for you, what are some challenges? Oh, I see. Okay, so Taram, let's talk about that deal in a second here, but I want to have, let's talk about questions that you guys have for ZASHA. I know this deal that you want me to take a look at. We'll run over through that like afterwards. I had a question. Let's see. Okay, so here's some questions. I had a question about seller finance and exit strategy. They got an agreement. Oh, okay, wait, this is the same thing. Okay, well, I don't know. You tell me. Maybe you can look at this deal and ZASHA, and tell me what you think about
That's exactly why I partner with people that can
it.
underwrite the deals, and all I concentrate on is what the returns are and what those look like, and I leave it to the rest of the pros. So,
Okay. Well, then I'll take this one. But if you have questions, okay, I'm gonna focus on the questions for ZASHA first, and then I'll get back to you, brother. So Ezgi said, "Oh, hey Ezgi, welcome." For the first time investor focused on generating the most cash flow, would you recommend a 2-unit multifamily or a single family home for Airbnb?
so that definitely depends on what the numbers look like and what your financial situation is, what your risk tolerance is, like what most cash flow. Every market is completely different. Like I'm saying here in Hawaii, our medium home price is 1.2. My Airbnb rents out every month. It's a 300 square foot condo. We gross about $8,000 a month. So the net is about probably 2,500, I would say. Now we just got a different type of loan on it, or we
Mm-hmm.
got another HELOC on it. Um, so yeah, I mean, for the first time investor, if you want to, so the easiest way, if you're still working your job right now, if you have a good income, would to be use a conventional loan, buy a 4-unit property, live in one of the units, use it as your primary residence. You might qualify for an
FHA.
FHA loan. I did that with my mom. My first property was actually, I bought a house with my mom, and it was a duplex, and we used an FHA loan. We got a grant for the down payment, so it basically cost us nothing to move into it. And we bought that in 2009, sold it in 2017, and we made 150,000 each tax free because we lived in the home and then we sold it. So there's also like, what do they call it? You could also basically like flip a home that you live in every couple years, make money that way. For the Airbnb, I guess you'd have to qualify as well for a longer term loan. So they do have like DSCR loans too. So it all depends on the numbers and what your goals are essentially, right? Because sometimes if you want to self-manage, it might be hands-on. But the easiest way is to buy a 4-unit property, live in one, and then have the other units pay for your mortgage. Get rid of the biggest expense that people have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I also think, it also depends. If you got a full-time job and you have, something that you got to do, like Airbnb is going to be hands-on. Okay. So that's going to be hands-on. 2-unit multifamily probably will also, there will be times where you're like, crap, right? Like literally this weekend, we're in Chicago. and you know, we're at a family function thing. We get a phone call and we have a team. We actually have a team, and we still get a call about something going down with the Airbnb. And it just like even a little bit like just stresses you out. It's like, whoa, you know, like it's unnecessary because you take that stress, and now I'm going to a family function with stress about a deal. So, you know, you got to kind of weigh all those things. But I would say, you know, in today's market, depends on where you are. It's also hard to find like good cash flowing 2 unit, 3 unit, 4 unit. I mean, I'm seeing four back in the day. I was like 4 unit, $100,000 a unit. It's going to be great, right? It's definitely going to make money. But now you're looking at 4 units that are like 200 plus per unit. You know, it's going to kind of be hard to cash flow that as well. Um, you know, and you don't want your first deal to be something that's such a headache that you decide not to do real estate anymore.
Right. And
So,
Airbnb, honestly, mine, I have a property manager as well, but same thing. It's a condo and it's on the second floor and it looks out the ocean, but the people that were staying in it actually got locked out on the balcony. Somehow they locked themselves out on the balcony. So I got a call at like 1 a.m. because the property manager, they still have to get our okay to send like a locksmith out there because it's emergency cost, probably gonna cost $400. And yeah, it's still, even though you think, okay, I'm going to hire a property manager, you still got to manage the property management company too,
mhm,
whether it be long term or short term. So
yeah, cool. I'm just starting my journey transitioning from single family to multifamily. From your perspective, what's the number one mistake that people like me should avoid? Thank you.
it's starting my journey. Well, are you getting into bigger or smaller multifamily?
You getting into syndications, or you getting into 4 units?
Are you active or investor?
20 or
Oh,
20 bigger. Okay. I like it.
okay. Maybe you can take this on, Alex, because I started just as a co-GP on the capital side.
Yeah. I always say this. I mean, the fastest way that you can be a contribution to a team, you know, is to vet a syndication team, right? And see their track record and ask around about them and figure out how you can join their team by raising capital. That's what I did to start. You know, I just raised capital. I'm like, okay, well, I'll raise the capital. I raised, you know, you guys have heard, some of you guys, my story of I raised almost the entire amount for the first deal. And I was like, yeah, cool. We'll split it 5 ways. Right. I don't even know what's going on. I just need somebody to tell me what's happening. I could raise money. Right. And raising capital is actually not as hard as you think. You know, it's actually kind of natural when you just kind of network, right? When you're networking, it just becomes a natural thing. So, number one mistake that people like me should avoid, I would say just doing it alone. You know, I see so many new people try to get together. All the people never did a deal and they're trying to do a deal. I'm like, that's some scary shit. Like I had 17 years of real estate experience, and I wasn't going to go into a syndication deal and try to run a deal to start. I was like, who's done it? Who's done it? Who's done it? Who's done it? Who do I like? I invested into deals, and then I'm like, all right, I like you guys. How can I help? Right? I could let me get in on this deal. I'll bring $700,000. They're like, really? All right. So sometimes you do have to declare something bold, but I would say just, you know, getting together with a bunch of new people and try to do a deal would probably be the biggest mistake. Right. And then the other one, okay, recently, don't tell Grant Cardone this, but he's been going around. I mean, in the last call, he literally said, just practice, submit a bunch of LOIs, just keep submitting LOIs. I'm like, all right, that does not sound like a good plan, because you go and submit an LOI, you look like an idiot, and now your reputation gets ruined with the brokers. All right. So, like, I wouldn't just use brokers as practice either. Okay. Like, respect everybody's time. I think it's really important, you know, yeah, he said, yeah. Well, you know, Robert kind of says a lot of things that Grant says too, But Robert is a big operator. I really appreciate Robert Martinez because he is, one that teaches operations. He's multi apartment owner of the year. Like his apartments and his buildings are in the top like percentages. So, all right, Jasmine. Do you guys know each other? You guys know each other?
No.
Oh man, Jasmine's amazing. You guys will kick it off so good. All right, cool, cool, cool. So I'll make an introduction for you guys. Actually, Jasmine's pretty resourceful. She'll probably reach you before I even make it. All right, who else has got some questions? We'll take another 3-4 minutes here. This is your opportunity, right? ZASHA's your chat GPT over here.
Hawaiian chat GPT.
Donna, go ahead.
Hey, how are you? Thank
I
you for
like it.
the
You're brave.
information. Yes, very informative, so thank you for that. So I'm just curious about your glamping, camping, RV stuff. Like what do you actually have to consider before you buy an RV park? Like what's special about it that you would have to keep in mind?
Well, some things is one of the biggest issues that a lot of RV parks have is if it's connected to the county or city water or sewer, because that's a huge expense, especially if they don't allow you to connect after it's done, or even an existing one, if there's a water catchment system or there's a cesspool. A lot of counties are now requiring you to put in a septic system. So that could be a big cost. The market itself, what's the draw to that area? So we are investing in Branson, Missouri. I don't know if you've ever been there before, but I've been told, I've never been there, but it's the Las Vegas of the Middle East, I guess. So people go there for vacation on their family. There's a bunch of lakes there. The owner of Bass Pro Shops is building a water park and new hotel out there. There's a lot of amusement attractions there as well for families. So given that my partners already own 10 Airbnbs on the lakes nearby, that gave me the comfort to know, okay, they already have a history in that area and know that there's a drive or a need for an RV park in there. So they passed by this. This was for sale on the MLS, just like for sale by a realtor. And it was a family that the parents had passed away. And then the kids just let the RV park go. Like they never took care of it or anything like that. It was a long term. So once we evaluated it, ran the numbers for a short-term rental, not short-term rental, but a short-term RV park where the max they could stay is 3 months, just so that we could keep movement in between and it doesn't become stagnant or run down. And we could keep it more of like an like an Airbnb versus a long-term rental. So
What is that?
That me?
I don't know. Somebody's
me.
typing something, I think.
But so those are some considerations to take into account as well. And with RV parks, like anything else, like it's very low maintenance if you think about it, right? It's just like a pad. You got to create the pad. You got to run like electrical and some water to it. But
Sure.
it's almost like running like there's multiple businesses that you can have on this one piece of land. That's what I liked about it. Was now we can have a camp store to sell firewood and things like that. We could have a laundry center, rentals for like inflatable rentals for the lake, or if we decide other types of water rentals that you would give out to people. So essentially, I just teamed up with a couple that knew the area very well. They already had functioning Airbnbs there. They actually moved down there to be closer. They were 3 hours away. They're like, we're
Oh,
gonna move
wow.
down there because they are very much invested in that area. So that gave me comfort too. In looking in a partner, right? You have to look what everybody's contributing. And for me was the monetary side. So we ended up using my net worth and a few of one of my properties in order to leverage the SBA loan. And then also I brought in my own funds to that specific deal because with SBA, you can't bring in other people's funds that don't have equity in the deal as well or not partners. So that's something to be aware of, depending on the type of SBA loan too, like check with the SBA advisors, like not, but that's what we did in this particular deal. But yeah, so at the end of it, I'm going to cash flow about $10,000 net a month. And then
Nice.
my partners are different sets as well of returns. And so we plan to keep it longer term, but we are prepared to sell it, within the 4 to 5 year mark as well.
Nice. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Donna. All right, Peter, go ahead. Nationwide lender based in Georgia. You're muted. I muted you because you were making all the noise.
You gotta love Zoom.
There we go.
Hey,
How's
what's
that?
up, brother?
How are you doing, Alex?
I'm good. I'm good. Good to see
Awesome.
you.
ZASHA, thanks for being with us tonight. So what would you say is the one thing that's been most effective for you in terms of raising capital?
Most effective has been putting myself out there, speaking at conferences, going to conferences and meetups, hosting meetups, just being out there with social media. So over the past year, I've raised probably like 1.5 million in private funds for my projects from Instagram. So if you're not leveraging social media, you definitely should. But
I've been saying it, guys.
It's not from people that I've known before. It's from, like, even my first
Right.
private lender was another investor. It wasn't like friends or family. So I think people
Yeah.
being open and putting themselves out there, like I'm doing right now. I'm a true introvert. Like, I do not like to do this kind of stuff, but I just force myself because I know of the benefits. So even though I'm
Right.
not very articulate, I grew up differently than a lot of people, and I don't always feel comfortable, speaking or in crowds. I just do it anyway. Because I know the outcome is going to be, one, making more connections, but two, being able to build wealth for my family. So I always keep that why behind putting myself into uncomfortable situations. But yeah, so putting yourself out there, social media, conferences. I started my own meetup, and just being seen as like an authority, or like almost like an expert in that field, even though you may not truly be. I don't think anybody's a complete expert in anything, but you're taking action. Like, I'm buying all this stuff. People are attracted to people that are successful and actually doing things and making moves.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Love it. That's
Great
the best
advice.
advice.
Robert Martinez says the same thing all the time. Tell your story.
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be the expert. I'm not an underwriting expert by any means. Okay. So that's why I lean on my team of other people that are experts. I just focus on doing calls with Alex and going to these conferences and making connections, but truly just telling my story of success, showing the deals that we got. And if people want to come along the ride, cool. We want people who resonate with us as well. Like Alex mentioned, like, if somebody has $1 million, but they're an evil, bad person, I don't want their money. Like, I would never take their money. Or if they have bad intentions, I definitely do not want to do business with them. I would rather not make money than put myself in that sort of situation, because at the end of the day, like, yes, we're building wealth. Yes, we make money on these deals and things like that, but we also want to do the right thing and do something that puts it, we're trying to, at the end of the day, get peace, right? Whether that be financial freedom, whether that be, spending more time with our kids, but feeling good about ourselves and that we're actually making an impact. My whole thing has like building wealth while making an impact, a positive impact on people. So whether even my single family homes that I have control over, I try to rent to mostly people on HUD or Section 8. And that makes me feel good. My flips, I try to sell to mostly first-time home buyers or local families or multi-generational families, especially if it's a house and a cottage. If somebody is like, they want the house because they want to be able to take care of their mom to live in the cottage, like, they don't have to be the highest bid or the highest offer or all cash or anything like that. If I'm still going to make money in the deal, but maybe I'll make a little bit less money, it doesn't really matter because I have my next deals going on consistently.
Yeah, I love it. It's a very abundant way of thinking. That's
Mhm.
beautiful.
So-
What kind of meetups and conferences? Jennifer Bonner says the ones that she goes to, they seem to all be raising money.
Whoa,
true.
you'd be surprised. A bigger best ever conference, there was a lot of people that wanted to be more passive and limited partners. So yes, if you go to a real estate conference where everybody's beginners, or it's, you know, they're trying to flip homes, they're all looking for money. And if you go to a lot of these multifamily conferences too, yes, a lot of people will be doing the same thing, but I started going more once I got to best ever conference and realized, oh my gosh, all these people that are higher up that have done like hundreds of deals and syndicated all these deals, they want to be passive now. So I want to get more around more of those types of people. And so I just like that women's conference I went to. I mean, you're obviously not, are you a woman? No. Okay. But find conferences that are other business owners that are going to be at, right? This conference was for entrepreneurs. And like I mentioned, there was angel investors, there's capital venturalists there, and they were looking for deals or businesses to fund. And so not necessarily, they're not just going to jump on your own deal, but yeah, I'd say look outside of real estate specific and go to like small business stuff, see things in your community, and the meetups, like just have local real estate investor meetups, or like, hey, I'm having a multifamily meetup in the area, post it on Bigger Pockets, on your social media, on meetup.com or Eventbrite, and you'll get consistent people that always come.
Yeah. You know, and I just recently went to a tech meetup, and these guys all got crazy money and nobody knows anything about real estate. And, you know, people pay a whole bunch of taxes when they don't really have to, which is one of the big things that you can bring as value if you can learn that aspect of it and just kind of bring it, right? Like I went to an MLM meetup, and this guy paid $600,000 last year in taxes, and I'm like, bro, like that is so unnecessary. So yeah, tech, yeah, people, they got a lot of money. And I also learned there's so many billionaires, tech people from California moving to Vegas and starting their headquarters here, because just by moving it to Vegas, they're going to save millions of dollars because of the no personal income over here in Vegas. So California, these guys are all coming to Vegas. So that's why I was curious of what you're doing here in Vegas, because that's where, you know, I'm focusing a lot of my attention. And you know, I live here, so I look forward to the next time you come over to Vegas. Well,
I'm coming in July. I'm speaking at Ryan Pineda's WealthCon event.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay.
July 12th,
cool.
11th through 13th, I think. Yeah. So in a couple months.
All right, cool. I'll come and support you and cheer you on. We'll bring everybody who's committed to coming in this call.
Hey,
come on.
Come on, people. Rally.
Yeah. Okay. Any last questions for ZASHA here? We'll kind of break out. We'll give you guys an opportunity to do a little bit of speed meetup right here for each other. Oh, Giselle's coming. Okay, cool. Perfect. Yeah, we'll definitely have a meetup in Vegas during that time as well. I've thrown multiple meetups here. And oh, for anybody that's kind of like traveling around the country, meetup.com is a great way to find just a meetup. Somebody else already put a thing together, just go to it. You know, like I have a friend that drives trucks, and I'm like, dude, everywhere you go, you should find a meetup. You unload your shit, and then you go to the meetup, and you'll probably become a great capital raiser. Ginny says the conference is Ryan Pineda's the wealth conference. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think it's called WealthCon now. I don't know.
WealthCon.
He's changing it up. So
yeah, he's branding into that. I like
yeah.
it. Okay, so yeah, thank you, ZASHA. You're amazing. I loved hearing your story, and thank you for, you know, blessing us with your presence here. If you guys have more questions for her, if you didn't think of a question while she was here, follow her, Invest with ZASHA on Instagram, and message her. You know, the best thing is to kind of put your face up there and then take a picture of what's going on here and tag her, so then she'll know who you are too. She'll know you were here. All right. Okay. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for taking the time out to join us here today. I look forward to seeing you in person.
Yes, in a few months. Well, thank you guys again. And like he mentioned, if there's anything else that comes up, message me, and I'll try to get back to you right away. But keep building wealth, keep coming to these calls. Alex, thank you for adding value to this community and helping other people on the journey.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing who you are to us. Appreciate it. Okay. Let me get my face off the front. I'm just like, it's so weird looking at myself the whole time. How do I undo this? Hide view self. Oh, there we go. Hey, there's everybody. Awesome. Cool. So how did you guys enjoy ZASHA's story? She's pretty inspiring, and she's just like so cool about it all. Like, yeah, $5,000 a month, and then I bought my first property, and she was doing really well, and she was only at $300,000 net worth. Right. So you don't have to compare yourself to everyone out there. There's, we can you can start. Everybody can start. And there's no excuses. Wait, so hold on. Let me answer this one question that was here first. So about that deal, Torin, the seller finance deal, I think this is going to be helpful too for me to kind of share with everybody what I think when I see something like this. So he's got a deal that's $28 million. I said 21 million when the seller finance structure is better. Okay, so he has an opportunity to do seller finance here. Why don't you share a little bit with us what the deal, what the story is and what the deal is?
Okay, hi everybody. Thanks, Alex. And thank you everyone. ZASHA was a great speaker. I really enjoyed that. So the deal's in Sunrise, Florida, and it's 154 units. And the seller's willing to finance, set up to 50% of the deal. So I got a green light. Like an investor said he'll give me 21 if I can get that price. I want to send a letter of intent, or at least keep a good relationship with the broker. So I was wondering if I should send the 21, or if this kind of structure is better for the investors and for the seller.
So if the seller is going to give you, so I'm seeing your little napkin underwriting right here. If the seller is going to give you 50% seller financing at 3.5%, and I know that, because we've talked about this before, that he owes 17.5 million on this deal, right?
Yeah, about.
So if he gives you 14 million, if he's, offering that to you at 3.5, he's going to be negative cash flowing. And you're going to be giving him $14 million down, and then he's going to kind of carry this for you. So it seems like there's a lot of desperation if he's going to try and do that. But based on what you showed right here, so if we take the math, everybody, 14 million times 3.5% times 0.035 is, so it's $490,000 that you got to pay in debt. And you said the NOI is 1.3 million. So you're going to cash flow 810,000 on this deal. Is that what this says?
Yeah.
Okay. So 810,000 free cash flow off of the 14 million you're going to raise. It'll probably be more than that, a little bit more, because you need to, raise a little bit more. So it's somewhere around 5% cash on cash. Also, you had mentioned that the seller said he was going to get you the other half of the loan at 5.5% or something.
Yeah, like he said that's possible. Yeah. But
okay, so that's the other play. That's a whole separate play.
Yeah, separate. That's for the 21. So I wanted to compare the underwriting for the 21 compared to this 28 to see. I don't really know exit strategies and how the seller finance really works. But I wanted to compare the two structures and see which is best. And if the 21 is best, then I'll just send the letter of intent at 21. But
I mean, at 21 million, yeah. So look, first you want to go make sure that the investor that said he'll buy at 21 will actually do it. Okay. And you want to just let the seller know, hey, what happens if I don't want to waste anybody's time if I submit a $21 million offer? Like, will this even be considered, or should I not waste mine and your time? See, it's about being real, even though the seller, I mean, the broker is like, hey, submit an LOI, submit an LOI. They kind of have a duty right now in today's market to just kind of present offers to their buyer. I mean, to their seller, so they can look like they're doing something, right? But you being new to the game, this is a big commitment, like $14 million down, 20 million, $21 million deal, not like limiting you at all. But this is a big commitment, a big deal. First, I would look at what teams out there will help you take this down.
Makes sense.
Because can you raise $14 million? What happens if they accept it?
I think I could.
Well, okay, wow. So if that's good. So if they accept this, right, $28 million, now you got to put down at least $280,000
in escrow
in 3 days. So how will you do that? So you want to know the process right now. How will you put down 280,000? You have it?
I can find it. I could probably find it, but
yeah. So you want, this is the part of the preparation that ZASHA's talking about too. Like if you want to get lucky on this deal, you got to be prepared. That means what else is down the road. If they accept it, you got 3 days to put $280,000 down, right? And then the process starts, and you're like, oh shit, now I got a deal under contract. It becomes real, and you're like, okay, so due diligence. I gotta go and get my attorney to draft up paperwork. Right. If you're going to draft up some 506c syndication, it's going to be, I don't know, 10 days, 14 days before they get it to you. That means you can't really raise money during that time. Okay. So those are all things you want to prepare ahead of time. Like who are you going to use? Do you have a legal person that you're going to use?
Family legal. Yeah.
Family legal. Did you say family legal?
Yeah. Like a friend of mine. He's a lawyer.
So you want an SEC like attorney, somebody that knows how to draft up a PPM and all of that. You're not going to just get a friend that's an attorney draw it up for you. Like I would suggest not to do that unless he is an SEC attorney. So, start to put your team together, right? Like this is going to help you become more prepared. Like ZASHA was saying, like she had to go and figure things out. Like she didn't know anything. She got lucky a lot, but it was smaller deals. If she went at a $28 million deal with questions like that, not knowing anything, right? Like that would be super dangerous. But I would this looks good, but 28 million with the 1.3 million NOI, what is that? 4.6% cap? 4.6 cap?
Yeah.
Okay, that's probably pretty decent. What class is this deal?
B class.
4.6. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that market. Look around to see what else is trading, for that price. Look for comps of deals that just traded that is it 4.6 cap that just traded? What's on the market now? Is it 4.6 cap or is it going to 5? Is it going to 5.5? Right, like this seller just seems like a little bit desperate to push you onto this deal, just to get an LOI out of you. Yeah, but otherwise, if you can get this in seller finance, that's awesome. But I just don't think it's gonna happen because he owes $17.5 million on this thing. Right, so for someone to do seller financing, owing $17.5 million. And just start negative cash flowing, it doesn't even make sense, right? Like for him, I mean, but you are giving him $14 million, so I don't know.
So out of the two structures, which would you prefer?
This one for sure.
The 28.
It's 50% down at 3.5% versus the bank's going to give you 5.5%. You're going to have to jump through all sorts of hoops for that to happen. On this, you just need to come up with 14 million.
Okay.
You come up with 14 million, you get one of those seller financing agreements, and you get to roll on this. I mean, we did it on a deal last year, end of last year, but it was a $3 million deal, not a 28. But yeah, I like it. If you can get seller financing right now, I would really look at the motivation to sell like this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like what is his motivation to sell like this? You know, maybe he's seller financing. Sometimes it's a trap. It's kind of like lease options. A lot of people used to prey on people doing lease options because they know you're going to fail and then they take the property back. Right? That would be the worst thing. If you put $14 million down, ended up, you know, not being able to pay or late on a payment, and he has grounds to take the deal back. Ooh, that's scary, you know?
Yeah.
So those are all things to consider. But if you can get seller financing, you know, like I still wouldn't put $14 million down. It's so much. Right? Like this is so much money to put down for seller financing. I would almost just from the risk perspective take the bank money, like regular loan, you know, just because it's safer. Like I wouldn't even want to risk losing $14 million. So
Yeah,
that's my thought. But if you can swing this looks like the better option, like for you who, you know, may not be able to qualify with the bank to be able to get this loan. $14 million loan. Now you have to find someone that has $14 million net worth. You need 1.4, $1.5 million liquid. I don't even know who's really, you know, sitting around with $1.5 million liquid. That's been a challenge. I've been thinking about that's like people that have that are demanding equity in deals, like big equity in deals, just by showing the bank account, not even putting that money in, just by showing the liquid itself. They want percentages on the deal. Right. So like there's a lot of, you know, in desperate times, people will get their equities, you know. Yeah, but you and I can kind of talk about this deal a little bit like after. Does anybody else have any feedback on this deal that's posted here in the chat? 154 units, Sunrise? You say Sunrise?
Yeah.
Sunrise, Florida, you know, kind of by Fort Lauderdale area. Anyone familiar?
Well, thank you again, Alex. You gave me so much to think about. So, again,
Yeah, I try to provide clarity, but you know, it's not always black and white on multifamily deals like this. There's just too many ways to do it. Right. So it's, you know, first thing is finding the seller motivation. Like, what the hell is he being so motivated to push it onto you for? You know, like giving you willing to go negative cash flow, you know, to get this deal to you. Like, what's that about? Right. Okay. So we don't really have time because I actually have to run to do like breakout networks, but let's kind of like open it up. Just if anybody wants to share anything, introduce yourselves if you're first time here, you know, anyone want to share anything? We do have a webinar coming up on our Vegas deal on Wednesday. So if you are interested, I will post a link in the chat right now. Just, you know, even if you just want to see how a deal is pitched, learn about the market, you know, invest in the deal, I will post it for you if I can find it. But anybody want to share anything?
I got it.
Oh, Nick's demand. I thought you were doing homework, so I was going to do it myself.
I am.
Okay. What did you guys take away from ZASHA's share? You know? So yeah, that's our webinar registration. We'd love to see you guys there. Love for you guys to join us. And then yeah. We have a CRM that is like super dope. If you scan Nick's or Monica's or Roberto's QR code, join that Facebook group. We have an awesome CRM for investors, for multifamily. That's the website right there, Legend CRM.
Are you a little demo or none of that?
No, we don't really have time for that right now. But for me, is to go to secure ventures in real estate. Secure ventures in real estate. What does that mean? I don't really know what that means. Because maybe somebody here got some ventures for you. Okay. Yeah, so there you heard. ZASHA is also in Vegas doing flips, doing stuff. Host mentioned she pivot to 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 leading instead of flipping. All right, Giselle, thanks for being here. Leading. Lending? Are you saying lending? To lending instead of flipping? Ah, yeah. So I have a friend, Esgy, who just left, but her father-in-law has a $18 million property on the water in Miami and is stuck. Can't, if he sells it, he's gonna have a huge tax capital gains on that deal. So he doesn't want to do that. But also an $18 million property is pretty expensive to upkeep. Right. And they want to retire, but now they're stuck with this house. They can't do a refinance because nobody qualifies for a $14 million refinance. So they're kind of stuck. Now, one option, okay, this is something I learned too, is you can't 1031 exchange that property because they live in it. It's got to be an investment property. But you could go through something called the Delaware Statutory DS. It's DST, right?
Trust.
Trust. There you go. DST. You can go through that way to avoid paying the taxes. You can also do a tenant in common, which is essentially a 1031 exchange into a syndication. So, I am providing her all the different ways in which they can do that with. And I don't know. There's so many people like that. We just gotta find them. And ZASHA, oh my God, driving for dollars. Sheesh. I didn't know like people really still did that. But you can drive for dollars. I don't know. There's actually a program. What the hell is it called? It allows you to see all the properties that don't have a mortgage on it. So you can now go after all those people, right? In your backyard and just start putting together seller financing deals, which will be cool. We're offering over appraised value and in Vegas for people single family homes that are in the downtown area, the art district, Fremont area. $350,000 home, we're like, we'll give you 420, give you 440. To try to there's different strategies. And we even said, hey, when we knock your house down, we put a multifamily here, we'll give you equity in the deal. Like, well, you want to do that. But we got to be able to build a rapport with them, because sometimes that's too sophisticated for them to even understand, right? Regular homeowners, they're just like, hey, I just want to sell this thing. Or they're not even ready to sell it. They're like, I know what my property is worth. I'm going to hold it until it's 700,000. Like, dude, if you became a partner in a 30 unit building that's going to take the place of your house, you would have 700,000. But got to draw it out. Put it very simply for people. So that's kind of the challenge. It's hard to find land to build something. I have a vision and I'm going to speak it out right now. Some of you guys know that I'm going to be doing a supercar syndication after our deal here in Vegas. And we will rent out these supercars. We will also be building a garage or a warehouse where these cars will kind of people can rent spaces and put their supercars in. And then the second floor, I want to build like podcast rooms and little rooms that like, you know, young adults or teens or whatever can rent out the space and do their podcasts, film their YouTube videos, whatever, you know, for something kind of inexpensive, make it cool and hip, right, to help out the youth. And above that, and this is meeting one person help me expand my vision. He's like, dude, put a 70 unit hotel above that, you know, and then put multifamily above that. And then now you're going to build something that is like a landmark in Vegas. I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, I've been thinking so small. I've been thinking of just this warehouse, cool meetup place, charity galas, you know, do these things there. And then now he's like, dude, build a hotel on top of it. You just have to build your warehouse a certain way to be able to build vertical. And I'm like, man. And he's like, I got a perfect piece of land for you. So in the near future, be ready to see a land fund phase 1 for Vegas. And then phase 2 will be a separate fund that buys the land fund out and return the money for the investors there. So I'm speaking all this out just so that you guys can all be like, oh, it's possible. And Alex is doing it. And somebody hold my ass accountable, please. Somebody be like, hey, what happened to that? It's like 10 years down the road. What you doing? No, that ain't happening. It's happening next year, this year. So yeah, you know, and then I want to build this really cool Legends building, and then I want to put it in all the big cities. And I want to take the same model and put it everywhere. And that will be my real estate legacy. All right, so there you have it. Anybody else want to share anything before we conclude on this call? Thank you all for hanging. Monica, hey, thanks. Jeez, I was tired of talking to myself.
No, well, I don't want to share, but well, you know, I have a question. I want to go back.
Okay.
You'd mentioned you can't manage a deal and have your money in there as well. Can you explain that again one more time?
So there will be listed managing partners. So it's not just the GPs. GPs are general partners. Managing partners are the like the banks. Everybody's like, that's the managing partner. Right? Like you can have GPs can have roles and stuff like that. Cool. But they're not the managing partners.
Oh,
Okay. So every deal, every LLC will say who are the managing partners on the LLC. See, structure wise, you build out GP, LP, but really there's going to be people that are signed on to the loan will be, you know, so managing partners. So if you are someone that's signed on to the loan and you are a managing partner, you can't take your self-directed and invest it into a deal that you are the managing partner on. Okay, general partners, limited partners, all those are inside operating agreements. No, it's all gray lines everywhere. All right. So, last week I was saying the SEC had that gray line about 506B, how long you have to know somebody. So the word is you have to have a substantial, I think that's the word, substantial relationship with someone.
Or something. Yeah.
And then Vina on the video goes, what does that mean? So somebody had once told me it had to be 60 days. Then this attorney goes, oh, you just have to know, like, you just have to know them, like know their family, know their investment strategies, things like that. Okay, cool. So which one is it? Do I got to know somebody for 60 days or do I just got to know their investment strategy? So it's such a gray line. And the SEC is full of that. Like all the rules are just gray. Right. And so at the end of the day, I think just don't upset nobody. If somebody wants out, buy their ass out and just call it a day. Right. That's really the you know, the rule of thumb is, you know, don't screw nobody over and then you'll be fine. Have everything laid out in writing and that's it. Yeah. So 506B, the debate goes on about how long you need to know somebody to make it a substantial relationship. The 3-touch rule. I don't know what that means. Hawk, tell me what that means. That sounds a little creepy. What does a 3-touch rule mean?
So basically, they say you have to introduce yourself, as an investor, then have like a meet and greet call, and then maybe pitch the deal, and then answer any questions, and then that's a substantial relationship. So I've heard this question in different forms, and that's kind of the consensus.
All right. So there's another one. So there's three now, three different meanings for that. And the SEC will choose whichever one they want to. Right. Because there's people that are like, no, you can't just talk to somebody 3 times. You need to have known them for 60 days. Then somebody else said, oh, you have to know them before the deal even was existed or something like that. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know. All right. So I think if I just know somebody I've had multiple conversations with, they're good to go. 506B. All right. Don't take my word for it. That's just what I do. And we will continue this debate and this exploration and discovery about that. You know what? ChatGPT. This will hopefully end the debate. For a 506B deal, what does it mean to have substantial relationship with an investor? Typing. Substantial pre-existing relationship. The SEC has not defined precisely what substantial pre-existing relationship means. It implies it generally, now even ChatGPT is being, vague. It generally implies that you have prior business or personal relationship with the investor that is sufficient to enable the issuer to determine that investor as sufficient knowledge and experience in financial and business matters to evaluate the investment's merits and risks. Okay, so you have to know that the person has business and financial knowledge that they can evaluate investments, the merits and the risks. Okay, I guess maybe after one conversation we could be we can have this substantial pre-existing relationship. And it just keeps using the same words over and over again. You must be able to demonstrate that you have a substantial pre-existing relationship with the investor. All right, I'm done with you, ChatGPT. But that's just how confusing the SEC is. That ChatGPT is confused. Right? So, anyways, the debate goes on and on and on. 3 touches. Hawk is still on his 3 touches. Nowhere in there did it say something about 3 touches. Okay. It listed the code or the thing, the ordinance or whatever it's called. General rule of thumb. Here's Hawk with his vagueness. General rule of thumb. ChatGPT just told me that. Generally, it implies. All right. Anyways, that was fun. ZASHA was amazing. I will be on the lookout for a ChatGPT AI expert. So somebody in my ACIM call has reached out to me saying that they are an AI expert. So I will do my due diligence and then I will report back. And maybe you guys will get to see something really cool because AI is super cool. I'm blown away all the time. So, all right. Well, thank you guys for hanging out all the way to the very end. If
Thanks,
you
Alex.
have, hey, yeah. Oh, okay. See you later. All right, everyone. Much blessings. Happy Monday. Check out my Instagram, my link that have all the other calls that I do throughout the week. So check them out. Also, I have some really cool videos, really cool shorts that will be dropping in yeah, JJ's nodding. He approves. He's been my video coach for about a month now, and I've been listening. He says that each one of these shorts should be your baby. So
He has
I'm like,
improved,
okay.
yes.
I have improved.
Definitely improved.
All right, I'm gonna give you guys a sneak peek real quick. It's so good. So happy about it. Now everyone's gonna know who my camera person is. Wait. Hold on. Gotta share sound. It's like a 30-second thing, and then we're gonna be off. This is how you never pay taxes ever again. Either you or your spouse has to declare real estate professional according to the IRS laws. And what those laws say is you have to spend 750 hours a year looking at real estate or being involved in real estate. Or you have to spend 50% of your time with your other job. Any real estate investment that you make, you can take the depreciation of that real estate against all of your income. That includes your W-2 income, your capital gains, for both you and your spouse. Last year, I was able to pay no taxes, even though I had a substantial amount of income. My tax liabilities are negative $188,000. For the last 5 years, I have paid no taxes because I am a real estate professional. Booyah. So dope.
Good.
These videos are gonna take off, right, JJ?
100%. Yeah.
You approve? No, so I'm making 30 of these videos like at this quality, and then I'm gonna launch, just every day for 30 days, like these types of videos. But it's like the quality, like he brought his big boy camera. It made my camera look really, really sad. So yeah. I will eventually share how all of this is done as well. All right, cool. Well, it's been real, folks. Thank you all for being here. You're all amazing. We'll talk again very soon. Bye, everyone.